motions that are now technically township resolutions by roll call vote as redundant, unnecessary, and unclarified, somewhat ridiculous in some cases. I believe another intent of these frivolous resolutions is to create an illusion that I am somehow against basic road maintenance expenditures in the township, and I am clearly informing all that this is a fallacy. The first motion was Watkins' motion that we fix all roads, that's gravel. Any of them we need patch potholes. The roll call vote was no, yes, yes. I have no issues with this motion because, however, I feel it is redundant since the Board of Trustees already have this responsibility and power to do this, and we all have done this. I know a few folks want to create a story that somehow I am unable and unwilling to work with the shovel. I would like to clarify this April 2009 resolution to note, in respect to the existing laws considering for road repair and maintenance, not for road improvements described in ORC 5571.15. The replacement motion, including grammar changes, would read as follows. The Township Trustees may fix all gravel roads when they need potholes patched for road repair and maintenance not described as road improvements outlined in ORC 5571.15. Number 2, Watkins' motion that we put in new culverts and replace old ones. Roll call vote was no, yes, yes. My suggestion on this resolution is to clarify the fact that the township is only authorized to replace culverts up to a specific diameter. I would also like the board to come up with an actual policy on replacing and or installing all culverts. This policy would also outline information for residents to know when and if they are responsible to pay any of the costs associated with the new culvert installation. The policy would also clarify the process the trustees would use when a culvert request is made by a resident. In the past, I was the first to point out the necessity for a policy on culverts, including avoiding a repeat situation where a township trustee put in culverts on private property and also installed any only benefiting themselves personally. Abstained votes should be required when the trustee is the property owner. Number 3, the Watkins motions, we take down any trees on the right of way that's bad or needs to be down. Roll call vote was no, yes, yes. I feel this is primarily a motion to distract from the recent activity made by Trustee Watkins, where he started out removing a tree from his own personal property. In this case, a no-bid contract for $500 was given to a contractor without any discussion whatsoever publicly by the board at any meeting. The tree was not an emergency situation. This was then followed by a tree in front of Brownsville Church being removed without any board discussion of the said tree. This church tree is of specific concern since its contentious nature had even required a file be opened with the county prosecutor's office. With no answers determined from legal counsel, the tree was removed without public board discussion. The tree was not an emergency situation. No formal request was ever submitted by the owner of the land, in this case from the deciding church board. Number 4, Watkins' motion, we purchase gravel or cold mix whenever needed. Roll call vote, no, yes, yes. That's the one everyone thought was so funny. And it doesn't matter how funny the audience thinks the motion is, they need to contain themselves so as to not disrupt the business at the table. On this motion, I would also like to amend to note that the purchase would not be used for any projects outlined in ORC 5571.15 unless the board voted properly prior to the purchase of materials. The 5th Watkins motion, can repair equipment when needed without having to have a meeting. Roll call vote was no, yes, yes. I suggest we put a dollar amount on said repairs, and if exceeding a certain amount, then the trustees will agree to an emergency meeting to vote on large expenditures properly. Number 6, Watkins motion, we clean ditches when needed. Roll call was no, yes, yes. No decision before the vote, no discussion was made before the vote. I don't have any issues with this motion as it reads. However, it would be nice to see an annual schedule or program established, since this is an area that the township could greatly improve on. And 7, Watkins motion, pick up cinders and dogwood left over from last year and check on the tree. Roll call vote. There were 2 votes, and there was no vote asked from me. In the future, it'd be nice to see a basic consideration if Robert's Rules of Order followed. Each board member has a right to discuss and understand any motion, as well as a right to be included in votes. Motions do not need to be made on specific routine duties like cleaning up a mess left by the road crew. Now my next one here as I already indicated, has to do with culverts. First, I'd like to know how, who, and when a request was made to install the new driveway or private property culvert on Mount Hope Road. This request never came up at any public meeting, and I was not aware until I saw it happening. One other reason to bring this question forward is that somehow this seems to be the notion that everything is now being deemed as an emergency situation and apparently used as an excuse to not bring it up before the board at a public meeting. My viewpoint is that none of these past actions were true emergency type issues. They were purely just cases of bad planning and most likely a game trying to hide the details of what has been planned. This way, I would not know what is going on, and as normally happens, I would be blamed for not being there to help out. This ridiculous game playing needs to stop. Number two, one other reason is there have been questions asked by a resident about just such a thing. Since he had been accused of some past illegal activities related to a driveway and culvert installation on his property, to date he has never been provided a courtesy of a reply to any of these questions, and 3 months have gone by. Some of these questions were A, exactly when did the township pass a resolution? This would fall under 5571.16 on the ORC, for a resident to obtain a permit before installing a driveway culvert or making excavation in township highway or highway right-of-way. If one does exist, please provide one, and also any notes to go along with that, and a copy of the formal written resolution that was passed. And I'd like to make sure that we get that answered. Next, where are the permit application forms as outlined in 557116 located? Where did the board spell out the specific requirements for this ORC, A, B, C, D, or E? And where is the document located? Thirdly, has any township resident ever been subject to this sort of permit application requirement process in the last couple of years? If yes, I'd like to have copies of those documents. At this time, I'd also like to put a formal request in for the most accurate culvert inventory. I agreed to check the township culverts in 2009, we voted on that at the organizational meeting. I need to see what has been updated this year. I need all or any records from the fiscal officer from the past in order to do the most accurate culvert inventory as possible. I also need to know what has been taken off the physical inventory and that I brought up to current compliance inventory in the last 2 years. Has the fiscal officer corrected the inventory when items have been taken out and installed? Were any of the newly used culverts ordered and taken to the job that weren't already in inventory? The only way to attempt to have an accurate physical inventory is to make appropriate notations throughout the year for these updates. And I also need any and all records regarding culvert inventory and installations on private drive entrances in order to complete it, along with the culverts that are found when we do the physical count around the township on private drive. I need a copy of the most recent private drive culvert inventory if you have such a thing. And I'd like to have that as soon as possible because I wanted to get that done prior to the end of 2009. Bear with me, I just have one, well, I got a couple notes here. Dan, I know that you don't always like to read ORC at a meeting, but I would request it privately sometime. You do check out 3767.32. It's under the guidelines of littering, Title 37.
Littering.
Now hang on, I'm not done. You'll have the mic. I'll remind the audience that this is not open up.
Oh, you're going to talk to me now.
This is not a conversation with you.
Oh, that's good. I'm glad you're talking to me. I thought you were mad at me.
Please refrain until public comment.
What is it? Just talk to you.
Yeah, I heard it.